Welcome everyone to Improving Teacher Adoption Part 2. This session was really popular with a lot of schools in the Americas that we chatted with a couple weeks ago. So we wanted to make sure that we also made the time for schools on the other side of the world to be able to have these similar conversations. So yeah, today I will introduce our lovely panelists who have so graciously allowed me to drill them with questions during this 1 hour that we have. And then, yeah, I'll introduce them, I'll ask them some questions, and then at the end we'll have like an open Q&A for anyone who's here. You can feel free to ask them questions. I know a couple of them have to hop off early, but we will have a lot of great brains in the room, and I can also speak to anything that I've heard about before. But yeah, as always, the recording will be available later, and questions are welcome at any point. Even during like the pre-prepared questions, if you guys have questions that you want to tag onto there, feel free to speak up. We're always happy to make this as interactive as possible. But yeah, as for our panelists, so firstly we have Chris Norman here from the International School of Kuala Lumpur, and then we have Cora and Dalton from Chinese International School in Hong Kong, and Greg from the American School in Chennai, and Kevin Crouch, who is from the Western Academy of Beijing, Tim Evans from the American International School of Guangzhou, and Warren Appel, I think, from the American School in Japan. So pretty good mix of where people are from, and a lot of people who work in like the tech roles at their school, but also we have some like people who work in innovation, people who work with who are learning specialists even. So yeah, that's kind of the mix here. And with that, I'll go ahead and get started with the first question. But essentially, I wanted to know, how did you all roll out Flint to your school, and what did that initial introduction look like? Also, feel free to like reintroduce yourselves if you would like. But yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen so we can see everyone's faces too.
Just throwing out, we're just starting, or do you have a list of people you want to go through?
Go ahead.
So at ISKL, it was just pretty much sent out to us, hey, we heard about this Flint in an email, check it out. That was it. And then a couple months later, it was, hey, come on in at 7 a.m. in the morning. We're gonna do a little 30-minute session about it. I did not go to that. I don't know how many teachers did go to that. So again, another kind of issue with how do we roll it out? The sentiment really came out to when my goal for this year is to work more in AI. And once my schedule and time freed up a little bit, I was able to explore Flint, and then it kind of hooked me in. From then, what I did is, as I am the learning behavioral specialist here, so I work primarily with the 10th graders, I saw a benefit in how this could be used in every single subject. And I worked with kids one-on-one to show it to them. And I explained to teachers at first, and again, pushback. So that's kind of how the rollout went. Not very well. And I know there's other questions on how to improve it. So when we get to that, I can explain how we've improved it there. But that's how the rollout went with us. And I do see ways on how it can definitely be improved across the board.
I can jump in after that. Thanks a lot, Chris, for sharing that. So we tried to work with some of the AI committee at our school, so introduce them a little bit early to some of the early adopters. Cora and I worked across whole school to create some resources and a website teachers could go to get more information if they, preferred to read or look at examples on their own. And then in primary school, we rolled it out to all the teachers in that after school meeting. And we had them just explore and maybe make an activity that fit their context. There wasn't a lot of adoption until I started working individually with teachers. And I think it's really about those relationships you have, like connecting with people and sitting down one-on-one and helping them, understand the platform a little bit more and sharing how transformational it can be. So that's when we had a lot of success. Yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna jump in because Dalton just mentioned a primary. So in secondary, because we saw the need, and a lot of teachers start to ask us like, okay, I want to use AI. I want to do this. How can I do it? So we saw this need. That's why we try to a little bit push, like, oh, we need to get this platform. And also we want to get the platform could be more accessible for all different subjects, because we like how Flint could support math and science, which our math and the science teams, they were not happy before with the other platforms. They were like, we never got taken care of with that. And so we also did a lunch bite. I did 2 lunch bites. And I think one good thing about our school in secondary, we have really good traditional lunch bites. Usually teachers will bring lunches, like little social events, as well as learning stuff. So the lunch bites turn out to have really good turnout. And then we have, like, we're in control of different TVs in secondary. And I just took advantage of that, just span all of the different things and put on daily notice. And the most important thing, like what Dalton mentioned, was it's one-on-one individual sessions. I literally just came from one session with one teacher because she saw her colleagues, her teammates are using it. Now she wants to use that. And also, we just passed the report season in secondary. During the report season, I got so many teachers book me one-on-one because they want to use it to support their reports, to write their reports. And now, after every single time after the session, and the teachers would be, now I see why we're using it. Maybe I can use it with the students. So we just schedule follow-up sessions, how they can plan out how to use it in their classes.
I can jump in on that, if you don't mind. I think I really enjoyed hearing Cora and Dalton's explanation. I think that brings us to thinking about sort of this technology and these tools and where they are in like the progression of things. And we haven't done, for example, any large group training or anything like this is a tool you must use and this is how you use it. And largely because this technology is so new, we don't have a lot of best practice yet, right? We're just probing practice. We're just trying stuff out and seeing what works and what has a positive impact. So that's what this type of collaborative programs are really helpful. You have to bring teachers in the room. Great if you have early adopters. Also, if you have some dissenting voices in there as well to help us, keep our thinking straight. So that's what we did last year. Last year was really we created a committee, called it the ALT team, the Advancing Learning with Technology. Teachers from across the school, there's about 50, and we just looked at these tools and we tried to answer the question, why would we use these tools in our class? What impact might they have? What could we do with them that we haven't been able to do? How can we achieve our school mission, right, in a better way? So those are and out of that came some of those teachers just bubbled up. They're like, yeah, this is amazing and this is what I'm doing with it, and they just took off. And once they started sharing their stories more broadly across the school, we started getting more uptake. And then we have on our PD days, we have these free choice sessions, WAB labs we call them, and quite a few teachers did sessions on Flint, and that drew more people in. In fact, one of our early adopters did kind of a spark talk on Flint for the entire school, right? So this was the motivational piece. People just started flocking to the platform, and then when they got there, they were really pleasantly surprised to see that all their classes were rostered, all their kids were in there, right? They could start using it, and there were people that knew how to support them and use it. And I think that really took kind of the fear away from using AI, because it was just such untested technology for most teachers.
Yeah, I can go next. Similar to Kevin, in the past with big software adoptions, I've done the thing where you have the big faculty meeting and you tell everybody that this is the new thing and it's an initiative and everybody has to do it and they all get taught on it. And I think, with email or something, that's important. But I feel like the best way to do this sort of thing is incrementally with early adopters who are really interested and who are willing to kind of spread their success. license goes from grades 3 through 12, right? So I think it's a super flexible tool, and I think it's really usable for a lot of different subjects, but I think it could be overkill if all of a kid's teachers all assign them on Monday to do something in Flint, and they're just like, oh, we just did this yesterday, right? So I kind of want it to go a little bit slow at first. We have a document that I've been keeping up to date for 2 years that's just like all of the AI software that we recommend. And if there's some that teachers say, hey, I want to use this, and I try it out and I'm like, no, this is garbage, I put that on the list, right? Like, no, don't use this one. It's got some privacy issues, and don't use this one. It'll hassle you into putting in a credit card, and they don't do enterprise level pricing. So don't use that one. But then, so some teachers, when I put, I mean, we have 5 or 6 paid licenses on there that I want to encourage, but instead of telling everybody about it, it's just sort of on this document. People who want to can find it. And then this year I started doing after school workshops pretty much every week on a different tool or a different topic. And I get about 20 people to show up for the topic, depending on what it is. And so and that was a success. I also have a group during what we call it Pathways time. So everybody does an independent study research project on their own. And the ones who are doing research on classroom design all meet in one room, and the ones who are doing whatever. So all the different learning office and principals and me, we all take a group of teachers who have a similar project, and I'm working with the ones who are interested in AI. And so again, that's a broad range of ages and subjects, but in that group, they're all doing independent stuff. And so probably 3 or 4 of them are using Flint. And I will say the way that I handled the training on it wasn't just teach you how to use Flint, but we did sort of a what is an AI tutor good for anyway conversation. So I pulled together articles from Sal Khan and Ethan Mollick and Dan Meyer with different opinions about AI tutors. And then in my session, they put those into Notebook LM, and then they had kind of like a conversation about what do they want in their class to get out of an AI tutor. And then they went into Flint and created a learning experience that would match their outcomes in 60 minutes, and that was really cool. And then 2 weeks later, those same teachers came back to kind of show each other what they had accomplished over the last 2 weeks with their tutors. And the one thing that I thought was really cool, this science teacher thought, oh, this is really cool, this is really great. He signed in for the very first time, and he went into one of his classes, and one of his students had already made themselves a static theory tutor to try to, it's like he was studying on his own using Flint before the teacher had ever even signed in, which I thought that was that.
To jump in there, I echo pretty much what's been said there, but we've tried our best to look at AI in the same lens as we would for any learning technology. I know it's hard because it seems such a powerful tool, but we're really trying to look at it in the same way we would for any other tool. And for us, there's 2 aspects of that. It needs to either solve a problem or it needs to transform learning, and transform learning aligns with our school mission. So we've got that up our sleeve as well. It's something that we all believe in and we should all be looking to do. Then what we're wanting to do is, for us, it's teachers need to lead adoption. We found in the past, if it comes from the tech team or it comes from individuals such as myself who are not directly in the classroom, it doesn't really have that sustainable impact that we want it to do. So as with all tools, we've done our homework in the background when it comes to security, privacy, accessibility, and of all the tools out there, we thought Flint was best suited to solve a problem or transform learning kind of thing. What we would then do is look at what those problems were, and some of them were accessibility, some of them were having access to experts, and the transformative learning piece was around agency, it was around personalization, it was around that kind of vocabulary and words we've all heard, but they're pretty common words that we use in our school here. So with that in mind, then we looked at individuals, be it departments, individuals, teachers who we know we could get some quick wins with, but also departments. So secondary was our languages department, and grade 5 was our elementary grade level. So we just showed them, we highlighted to them some examples of how they could use it. So and it was great, met with our secondary languages team, and they were looking at how they could create bots in Spanish cafes or French hotels and restaurants and things like that. So they went there. And then what we did is we had them lead that adoption then. We had them champion it in any faculty opportunity. They would be the people that we kind of strong arm to speak in front of everyone. And we find that we're only 12, 18 months into it, and we are taking our time with it, but it's slowly getting out there. We're trying to celebrate it any opportunity we can, be it internal newsletters, externally, so people are seeing what's going on, and then coming to us. We're noticing that now they're coming to us. We'll chat later because I think it aligns more to one of the questions, but this week I heard a student say, another chatbot, which made me think, okay, maybe the idea, or another PowerPoint or another video or another thing. But we had a student say, oh, another chatbot. So that was just an interesting comment. But it's that idea for us, it has to align with what we're wanting to achieve as a school.
Yeah, no, I really like the breakdown that you gave, Tim, around like transform learning or clearly solve a problem. And I think what we've seen is we as a company have been very historically focused on the transform learning piece. That's part of the reason why we build ourselves an AI tutor company, and everything in the platform up until relatively recently was called an AI tutor. And I think when it comes to showing teachers why they should use a tool that's transformative, it's all about the use cases and showing like what other teachers have done, preferably one of their peers. And for a long amount of time, we kind of viewed, okay, we're going to stick to this transformation side of things, really sell and show those use cases and help that drive adoption. The conclusion we're arriving to, though, as a company, although we're not there fully yet in the product, is that we need both. We need both the transformation, which will continue to be a core piece of Flint, but if we can also show teachers how it can solve their day-to-day problems, similar to how Cora showed teachers how it can be used for like writing report card comments, then it can also help teachers get to that transformation piece quicker. So as a company, we're trying to like make parts of the platform seem more familiar to teachers, going from tutors to activities, for example. And over time, we're going to add more kind of problem-solving-esque features as well, whether it's like writing a report card or generating a worksheet or something like that. So hopefully you're going to be able to come at it from both sides of the coin. I think a lot of you have been able to do the problem-solving work, but we're also hopefully going to be helping with that soon. But yeah, just wanted to add that, but yeah, go for it, Greg.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about problems, and Tim, your approach with the sort of framing of it as the foundation for using it at all is similar to what we did, but different, because one of the problems that AI presents is, I mean, AI is itself a problem in some ways. It can undermine learning if not used appropriately, and it can often operate in the shadows. And so we identified, two core principles that we wanted to maintain no matter what we were doing to adopt AI, which was to preserve learning, not just transform it, but preserve it. I mean, in the high school, the first thing a student will want to do is like use it to undermine the learning opportunity they might have, because it's very expedient, right? I can just get this done, cool. So we wanted to preserve learning. That was a sort of first step, and we wanted to have students maintain their academic integrity, and for us that meant transparency. So whatever AI adoption, and in that sense, AI adoption is unlike other tech tools. So I actually appreciate what Tim said about it's like other tech tools in the sense that it has to meet the criteria. Yeah, absolutely. And it's unlike other tech tools because it presents very special problems for adoption and for use. And so I don't know if you might have seen a recent paper that came out. I don't think it's peer reviewed yet, but it's been blogged about quite a bit. The study in Nigeria with students using AI chatbots as tutors, and it had this kind of measurable impact. But the caveat being, teacher involvement in the rollout was crucial. And so I feel like a lot of us are probably going to be validated in that, in the sense that what Flint has allowed us to do is not say, if you're using AI, you must use Flint, but to say, look, Flint allows you to preserve learning and transform it in the way that you've all described. And it gives us transparency into its use so we can guide students in their use of it. Plus, it's really well designed. So even last night, like Warren was saying, my son was, he had been given Flint activities in 2 of his classes recently, and he was busy last night creating his own, MUN position paper evaluation bot and showing, he was very excited about it. So it's designed in the sense that it's super approachable and even kids can kind of dig into it. But for us, we made all the early kind of blunders and the early AI, we tripped a lot in our adoption and learning. But when we came to those two, like, look, is it preserving learning and are we able to be transparent about its use? That then allowed teachers to feel secure about using it, because I think that was a problem in a lot of teachers' minds. That was the pushback. It's like, actually, I see this as dangerous. But once we said, but this tool is a space where we can do the things we care about and push forward, then they felt much safer about using it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you everyone for, I think, both sharing like very candidly and almost vulnerably. Like you all are really diving headfirst into figuring out how AI should even be approached. And later on in the session, I'll ask for advice you all have to people who are like just getting started with it. But yeah, I guess along those same lines, the next question is, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but yeah, especially when you're having a wide variety of teachers with varying sentiments around AI. Have you all done anything to, I think, especially address like the concerned or uninterested teachers, or even like sometimes reel in the excited teachers a little bit?
We had some Chinese teachers who were struggling to get it to stick just on the Chinese language when they were using it, and they found it a little bit frustrating. And so I guess they were a little bit disinterested, but my partner and I were able to show them how to structure the rules more clearly so that it would stick to one language and meet some of their needs. So that's like a small success we had with the language teachers, with some teachers who were initially like turned off and didn't think it would fit their needs. Yeah.
For me, for the teachers that I'm trying to work with, the best way to get their buy-in is not to let them do it on their own, is to sit with them, small group, one-on-one, and show them this is what it can do. And so it's very subject-based. And I think if you scaffold it in that way, kind of like a fishing analogy of, I'm going to tease this out. Here's a 5-minute video of what it can do. So now you're like, there's some fishing going out there. Maybe I'm interested. Maybe I'm not. We got to hook them in. Well, how do we put that hook on? When we put that hook on and we're going fishing, you only use one type of bait. So each bait is a subject. I'm not going to put a worm, a minnow, and squid on if I want to catch one specific type of fish. And so what I've done is I limit to one piece of bait, one subject. That's it. I'm not having a big group and talking about a variety of subjects, because those teachers will tune you out. Teachers aren't the biggest fans of professional development if it doesn't have to cater to them. And if you are too broad, they're going to shut down. If you and ignore it, they have many other thoughts in their head. They're going to be like, why am I here? I'm not teaching science. I'm not doing Chinese or Spanish. So I'm not listening to it. And so now we've lost them. And so the success that I have had is I do it subject-based, because I teach or because I'm the case manager of these kids that struggling learners, and I have to know a little bit of every single subject. It benefits me, and I work with each division, each subject, and that is where I gear it towards. And that is where I can really catch that fish and answer those questions that they have, not so much with me, but having someone on the Flint team of a call who can answer those questions. And it's really one of those things where we work through it together. I'll show you, I'll give you a little teaser. I'm going to put my hook in the water. We're going to hope that there's a bite, but I'm right here to help you out as that expert of say, hey, this is what it can do for you and your subject in your grade level. That's what it can do. So you have to, so that's what I have had to do to get more buy-in from the teachers. And, you know, on this call, I'm hearing a lot of you guys talk about the teachers. That didn't sell me. What sold me on it was the students' reactions, the student testimonials, the student who has gone from a 3 to a 4. They are a struggling learner. And I asked, what did you do differently? I have taught you your study habits. What changed? They said Flint. Worked with a student who said, I don't like Flint. Why? It's too long. It gives me too much of a word. Oh, guess what? I can go ahead and I can change that. No problem. Now I'm starting to get the student to buy into it. And now she absolutely loves it. She's the worst in math. She has improved so much, but she likes Flint so much that she has made her own, which I never directed, I never showed. But so it's the students that inspire me to push for Flint. And I think if we have more student testimonials to see the success, it will actually help the teachers who are weary about using Flint to possibly change that mindset and to buy into it a little bit more. So I think a student testimonial is very big for teachers to want to get out of that comfort zone and deal with the challenges of learning a new AI platform. And then also, as you guys were saying, how you're building this is to help the teachers, the ease of the teachers. And ever since you guys did the new update earlier this week, I've loved it even more. And so that is kind of how I'm dealing with teachers who are apprehensive about it. But I'm also taking what their lesson is, what the worksheet is, and I'm actually doing it for them. So it's not taking their time out. And now that I've done it for them, they can look and see what it looks like. And they're like, oh my God, that's awesome. How did you do that now? But having them just play with it without that support is not going to bring in the teachers who are apprehensive about it, or the teachers who don't want to do it. They do need to feel supported. And on top of that is we have to teach the students how to use Flint. And I don't know, the teachers I've worked with, some, they're like, I created activity, I sent it out. And I'm like, awesome, how'd it go? Not too many people did it. Well, did you show them? No. Same thing as teachers. We are students, right? We need to be shown, we need to be taught, and we need to teach it to the students on how to use it appropriately. And Flint can definitely do that versus ChatGPT, where it can definitely guide the students and help them understand it and continue to have that buy-in.
Yeah, if I could follow that up, I would love to. The concept of the testimonial, right, is really super important. And I just wanted to address that, you know, this represents for most teachers a very significant innovation and a very significant potentially shift, right, in their practice. And so, you know, they are going to look to not just the innovators, the early adopters, et cetera, but they're going to look to the influencers at their school, right? And that term, not the Instagram influencers, but the people that they trust, that aren't just grabbing onto every shiny object that comes through, right? They're looking like, oh yeah, like when they say this has an impact, it does, right? And so, you know, it helps to know who those people are and ensure that when they use the tool, that they have a positive experience with it, like that they're getting all the support that you can give them, and that the kids are supported, and that it just turns out well. And that will go so far, right, for spreading the word and saying, yeah, and it's okay. Like maybe things aren't perfect. There's an issue, but if they're gonna say, well, yeah, we had a little problem but overall, it was a really positive experience. Great. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of kids, and that said, I would say that a lot of the kids that I speak to about using AI, they say that they still appreciate and would prefer to have shared experiences in the classroom where they're talking with their peers and getting input from their teachers and getting explanation from their teachers, not from an AI bot. But they have the agency outside of school to get explanations and to practice and do all of those transformative things that they wouldn't have had, you know, before that. So, you know, it's changing the nature of, you know, the classroom, you know, the learning environment, transforming that pretty significantly for a lot of kids.
Totally agree what Tim mentioned earlier. Is like introducing Flint in the school is like introducing another just learning platform or learning tools. And so usually in the school you would have a train. The first parts, the teachers would jump on boards and they know how to do it. And then you have somebody who's the back and they're not sure if they want to do it or not. And then the mainstream, they're like, it's kind of like this. So we did, like I mentioned, we did a launch bite. And so that target audience was the teachers who were very proactive of accepting the new platforms. And they pretty much just took off after that. And for the mainstream, like the teachers, they were like not sure, kind of doubts. I want to see how it's going to be. And so what I did, it's same as Christopher. So I did it one-on-one sessions. And I think we're very lucky. We have a lot of very capable teachers. Honestly, they know exactly what they want. They actually don't really need me to be there, but they need this kind of confidence of just trying out the new stuff at the beginning. So usually what I do, I'll just sit next to them and a bit navigation, usually ask them to explore by themselves. And I could be like a kind of thought partner, like a soundboard. They ask me, do you think this will be a good idea? I was like, maybe let's give it a try. And so whenever we tried this kind of one session and teachers would walk away, they would be like, now I know how to do it. I can do this, A, B, C, D, like that. And the other thing I find it's really helpful, it's like a peer impact. Like within the department, they would say like how their teammates doing it. And so the teachers would do it as well. And so with the students using Flint, we actually have quite a few top users as students. But that's for secondary. So I actually interview those students individually, ask them how they use it. And surprisingly, they kind of create activities based on their assignments and try to give them feedback, like how to improve it. And in primary, because Dalton is not here, so in primary, we found it's a bit harder to push out Flint. So we have teachers, they're very, very capable, very creative. They start to use even with year 2. I don't know if any of you had any experience with using Flint with year 2. Some students, they're very good, like they were doing it, we did it with Chinese classroom teacher because our primary is bilingual. And so the teacher tried it, and with the students who were fluent in Mandarin, they got really positive feedback. With some kids, they struggled, couldn't really understand what's going on. The teachers were so creative, they paired the students up together as a group. So they worked together with this Flint activity. Whenever they got the response from Flint, they would discuss within the small group, and they find what would be the best way to answer it. So in that way, students who are influencing Mandarin could support students who's kind of having challenge with that. So we kind of promote this kind of modes in lower primary. Now a lot of lower primary teachers adopting this kind of way to do it. And also because we're kind of bilingual schools, so language sometimes is one of the biggest challenges because we want students sticking to this one language. And luckily Flint could do it. That's also like one of the selling points for us. So what we usually do, we encourage teachers to accept embrace the new platform. And if they don't, we will wait and we have one-on-one sessions. When they see the needs, they will jump on. And also we try to make the biggest celebration for the small success even. Like for example, the teacher did all of this, we interviewed her, we brought her into this leadership team. And so everybody know that whatever the change positive impact they make it, everybody feels very grateful about that.
Jump in there. I mean, great conversations and relating to everything everybody's saying, but it's also reminding me, I remember those of us who just spent a lot of time online during COVID, it was pretty much the Wild West for a few months when there were tools, everyone was using tools that were given free and everything like that. And it kind of happened with AI, didn't it? A year ago, people were using your Magic School, your school AI. So what we try to do is, and I think everybody on this panel, and I can see individuals in the call as well, we're trying to not use the word control, but control what tools we are using and what tools our students are accessing. Otherwise, it will turn into a mess. How that looks then, and Kevin mentioned the influencer piece, and I remember Kevin did a talk at Academist Tech about that influencer model, that idea of behaviors and ability. That idea, what we need to ensure that teachers have the ability and the confidence and the know-how on how to use these tools. That looks different in different contexts, doesn't it? It looks different in elementary and secondary. It looks different at schools who've got time for PD. We're lucky, we're blessed that we have a couple of hours every Wednesday, so we've penciled some times in there. Again, we're trying to get faculty leading that. They're leading the adoptions, they're leading the professional development. And it's that idea that everybody's involved in the conversation. It's not just coming as a tool that we're wanting to use. It kind of is, but we're trying to frame it that it isn't. And in that case, then to end, it's getting feedback all the time, getting as much feedback as possible. What are the sticking points, be it with faculty, be it with students, be it with the caregiver community? How can we address those? And then if we feel because it's moving so quickly, maybe we do make mistakes, maybe it was the wrong tool for the wrong grade, for the wrong subject, and just owning that and but taking that feedback on board, because it's such a fluid technology space. It's just ever evolving. So I think we need to be open to that and open to that change. And also I will say we need to be upskilling ourselves as well. It's important that we stay up to date on these tools and having leadership teams around us that do support that and give us time to explore these tools in a space that we feel that we can make mistakes and we can trial things.
Hey, I just wanted to piggyback off that because I do have to leave pretty soon, so I might skip a couple of the questions here just to answer for you guys. I think feedback is very important. I feel that from that teacher lens, in my 15 years of teaching, there's not a lot of administrators that circle back and they ask for feedback. They don't circle back and let the teacher know how that feedback worked. I know what I think is important is, the first thing is we have to have the teacher buy-in. And I think with Flint, as Sohan, as you were talking about, you want to make the tools easy to use for teachers. If it's too complicated, they're not going to buy in. You're already out the door. So I think you guys are off to a great start at having that. And so I think we also need the feedback from the students. What is going well? What is not going well? Because maybe that's just the teacher can modify in the settings what it is that they need to do. And even though now it's great that there's a simulator there, it gives you an idea, there still are going to be those ups and downs. And I think the teachers need to get feedback from students on what do you like about it and what don't you like about it. And then that needs to translate to the teacher to possibly tell Flint, hey, guys, this is what they like, this is what they don't like. If we can make some changes here, I think we'll have more students buy in, we'll have more teachers buy into it, because it is a growing company and you guys are changing a lot. And so I think it really comes back to circling back to the teachers. Like I plan on sending out a survey after I do my training session in February of what do you guys as a teacher like about it and what are you frustrated about? Maybe it's just a learning thing that I need to teach you guys that you don't know. Or maybe it's something that maybe Flint can talk to their IT team and make some corrections or fix some bug issues out of it. But if we don't get that feedback and we don't communicate it to the teachers, if we're not communicating that with Flint, it's not going to keep the buy-in handy. So I think that would be advice that I would like to share with you guys from the teaching aspect to do. And like you guys are already doing, you're starting off small, do it subject based on that matter, one-on-one or small group. And so really continually check in with the teachers. Hey, I showed you this 2 weeks later. Have you used it? Why or why not? Maybe it doesn't go with the lesson. Maybe I'm not comfortable with it. Maybe I'm frustrated because it's not giving me what I'm envisioning in my head. And I think if from the administrative standpoint, if you guys are checking in with the teachers as well on what they like and don't like, that can also help improve that buy-in going forward.
Just like jumping in there, I really like this angle of the student feedback piece. And I think there's like more we can do there too, to like maybe highlight that feedback to teachers and administrators and you all to kind of show what students think of the platform. Because I think like one thing to mention is like there's a lot of AI tools out there. And oftentimes I think we think about that from like the teacher and administrator perspective. And it's true, there's tons of stuff out there, tons of new tools coming out every month. One of my favorite things to do though is to go into App Store, pretend I'm a student and like look up AI homework helper. And if you're a student trying to get work done, like it is a solved problem. There's like hundreds of AI math solvers, AI essay writers, AI question solvers, you name it, right? So I think like for students, right, the market demand's clearly there for like, I want to get my homework done using an AI tool, right? We're trying to create an alternative to that, but at the very least, we need to have like a space where students can explore and then iterate with us as a company, right? And maybe we also kind of show those successful stories to teachers to also encourage them to go back in the platform and use it more with their students. So I think like the massive pain point that AI has created is represented right now on the App Store. We're like trying to chip away at it, but obviously Flint's a small player and like the millions of apps or hundreds of apps out there that millions of students use. But I would say like one of our long-term ambitions is like, how do we get students to see a distinction between AI apps, between doing my work for me, like just doing my homework, versus this is a learning assistant for me. Like you wouldn't go to a tutor and just have them do your work for you, right? So yeah, it's kind of like an open question we're thinking about. Yeah, Greg.
I was gonna say, I've heard Sohan talk about that specific thing before, and I think differentiating apps for students is important, and also making sure that teachers understand the difference between Flint and just one more of these homework helpers. That's why when I was talking about the concept of preserving learning and AI as a problem itself, that was really our first step. And I think that's where, if you have a range of initial positions about AI in the classroom from teachers, it's probably around that, because there's a fear that if you introduce it, it's really just going to sort of chip away and undermine what they believe is at the core of their course or in their classroom. So yeah, so for us, yeah, there was this real push and pull between transformation and preservation, like what's still sacred, and then what do we move forward? And what Sohan's describing about like AI tutors coming out of our ears is very correct. And we didn't like to mandate Flint, but we have been saying pretty consistently, and teachers, it requires, probably 5-10 times saying something before it really, really sinks in sometimes, because they have a lot going on. But for us, the statement was, look, preserving learning, maintaining integrity and transparency, and Flint does that. I mean, there are other tools that maybe do that as well, but Flint does that for us, and we can support each other and have these network effects that you're all describing with Flint. So it's not a mandate, but it's a strong recommendation because it does those core things for us.
Yeah, Greg, I like that you're addressing, this issue of, what they're calling this kind of cognitive offloading, right? So this, if everything is effortless, then where's the effort, right? And so, that is definitely one of the key concerns here. And when I speak to teachers in certain subjects, some of the pushback that I get from any of the AI tools, not just Flint, but said, oh yeah, well, the feedback that the tool gave the student on their essay or their question or their draft or whatever, it was good, but it isn't what I would say, right? So teachers are feeling that sense of maybe a little bit a lack of ownership over the kids' learning. potentially. So it's not what they would say. Now, does that make it bad feedback? No, right? It's feedback, and it's feedback that a kid can get anytime, anywhere, and they can even manipulate it so that it can give different types of feedback to pretend there's somebody else, right? Simulate different types of feedback actors, if you will, which I love. And those are the types of transformations that we're looking for, and we have to be able to help teachers understand and help students understand as well.
I had a question. I'm Sarah Ducharme. This is Sydney Sutton, our instructional technology lead. We're at Oberoi International here in Mumbai, and our school has been playing with this for a while on a very low-key basis. So we do have some people who are really excited. And just today, this afternoon, we're doing an optional training as a bigger rollout, and there's a ton of interest. And already one of our brand new teachers came up and said, I went in with the link, just to play around, and I've already made an activity, and I pulled in BBC Bite Size and blah, blah. Like, he was so excited, and he said, at the training, if you want, I can be a showcase. And I was like, great. So, the thing is so easy for them to use, and we're really excited. My question is about the self-harm piece. And that's new, at least to me, preparing for this afternoon. We were just kind of noticing it. And I wondered if any of you have experience with what you have recommended to teachers, which emails do you put there? What have you seen in that feature?
I think I can answer this because we did have like a red flag email sent it to us. And so we told teachers that whenever they create groups, just treat it like Google Classroom classes. And they can put their co-teachers there, and some people they would put head of years there. So it's actually really helpful, we found, because we would log into another system just about behavioral issues, and some of that we got a little bit suicidal message, and so we had to follow up with the counselor and head of the year levels. They actually chip in and try to figure out. This is one of the functions that I think a lot of people didn't realize, but we like it a lot as a school. And I think whenever I mention it to other people, they were always like quite happy with that function. It's actually a really good function, I think, from my kind of experience dealing with things like this.
Sarah, does that answer your question? Okay, great. Yeah, this is such good conversation. I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit. This was a question actually that Chris suggested that I ask, but how to encourage the continued engagement and use from teachers and students. I know some people have talked about like the gradual word of mouth is what they're looking for. Some people have talked about how, hi Chris, how it's important to like continue checking in with the teachers, with the students. Yeah, I guess like, is there anything else that you all have tried? Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I'll just share, and I briefly mentioned it at the very, very beginning that we had heard a student earlier this week mention that there was another chatbot, and kind of like rolled their eyes, and wasn't aware. I just caught the conversation, which kind of like fascinated me, kind of thing. So I think it's important that we use it purposefully, and we use this technology purposefully. Few people have said it in different ways about technology needs to be invisible to a certain degree, doesn't it? And just needs to be something that we use. We can't be forcing it. And that's difficult with this technology, because we've had faculty come to me so excited. They've never spoke to me about technology before, but they say, we're going to do this chatbot. Da, 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 da. And you want that, and you don't want to put a pause on that. It's channeling that then, isn't it? Does it align with outcomes? Does it align with our programs? Does it align with our standards? Does it support our mission? Does it we're MYP, IB, DB school, ATLs? Is there scope that there's always these links? Is it something that's transferable, the skills? So I think it's that more than anything, so that it does add value. And it's something here, I love what Greg said about preserved learning. We kind of use the word skip learning, but I prefer the word preserve because it's just sound more positive kind of thing. And so it's that it needs to be something that students and caregivers and parents see the value in. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit messy.
That totally makes sense. And I think from what I've heard from other schools, at least, is that the continued use and engagement is kind of difficult, but as like we see like students using it more, that can also inspire teachers to use it as well. So I think a focus that we're seeing more and more commonly, I guess, is this comfortability with having the students be the ones who are driving the usage of Flint, and really training the students on how they can use AI as something to, help them learn and help them really understand a subject.
So a couple of people have mentioned outcomes. So it had an impact. I think Chris had said, there was a student who was a 3 and became a 4 and attributed it to the use of Flint. And other outcomes might be testimonials that they are willing to share based on their experience. So it's like this affect-based thing. I loved it. It was fun. It was engaging. And then there's a sort of, I don't know, assessment-based, I did better after using it. I personally, it's not something that we've actually had a chance to really do at a thick level, but I would love, and I think probably Flint would benefit from, and everyone using Flint would benefit from a little bit more rigorous kind of evaluation of process and outcome, both the feeling that students have and the outcomes in very specific ways. So like when we're rolling it out for teachers, the one way to do that, like Sarah was saying, like you've got teachers who just want to be a showcase. And when a teacher sees another teacher's activity, they're like, that is a cool activity. And we're connecting on a teacher to teacher level. But I think even cooler, if we want to use that word cool, would be, yes, it looks like a cool activity and it had an impact on these different levels for the students. And so that feels to me like the next step for us. I mean, we're still in the process like everyone, where adoption is growing at some sort of steady rate in different disciplines in different ways. But I feel like until I have those kinds of data points, most of my encouragement will be just based on my own enthusiasm or, my belief that it works, or, the sort of charismatic, championing of ed tech, which is what we do in a lot of ways. But I'd love to see because I think it's clear that it will have those impacts. Those positive impacts are emerging at sort of a more rigorous scientific level, but I think we have a chance to do that for our own schools and in our own context. So our context, like in Hong Kong and other places, we have a very multilingual student population. And so I think, maybe we should be collaborating more on like, how does this impact multilingual learners at different levels and different subjects, and really kind of trying to outline that as an outcome. I think that would drive adoption for even the most skeptical, teacher.
Thanks, Greg. I know we're running pretty short on time, so I wanted to make sure to check in with everyone here if there's like questions that you all want to pose to each other. Yes.
Question for me is, and we've had our language teachers in middle school come up to me and say, I am seeing a improvement in the students' level of language speaking, that they can see it after 3 or 4 months. We would like to document this now, and it's something we want to do with it internally, and it's something maybe we can do with So On support as well, is look at actually the data of that. And has anyone done something like that? Has anyone on that journey, or they're doing something similar that we could maybe just get some tips from you and get some advice on you? I'd love to be able to say, actually, this is what the data's showing, because we introduced Flint. I mean, we map tests, we do all this, but we'd like it to specifically look at the impact of AI and Flint particularly. Are any schools doing that, So On? Do you know any school that are on that journey?
I know like some anecdotally, some teachers reporting like comments like what you mentioned, and I know like a couple teachers like trying using Flint in one section versus another, and then like noticing some differences, but no formal testing at the school level. Yeah, and no like formal data that we can really point to yet. Yeah.
Because it's tough. Like Greg mentioned, like sometimes you've got those ed tech learning technology techie lens on that we think it's got to work because it's got to work kind of thing. But it'd be interesting to actually take a step back and involve all community members in and gathering their feedback on impact.
And there are different data points you could probably collect, like engagement is its own beneficial element to learning. So if students are more engaged, they'll be more apt to improve and so on. So like there you could kind of, yeah, there's a range of things you could probably be measuring, but yeah, I would love, I mean, Tim, I'm saying exactly that. Like I would love to be a part of something like that. We just haven't figured out exactly how to strategically make it happen. But yeah, I think Asia has a special context where we could probably mount something like that across a bunch of different schools, and have some sort of valid things to say about it.
I'll just jump in with one use that we're excited about, and we haven't started yet, is we're hoping to see improvement in the quality of student reflection with Flint, and we haven't gotten to the point of how we're going to measure it, but you know, kids are so sick of writing reflections, and even things like being able to customize their own activities based on how they learned this thing, can they now customize to learn it a different way? And you know, it makes it a much more active process of reflecting on something. So maybe that can be a piece to put in there as well, engagement around reflection.
Sarah, I know we're short on time, but I do want to say like reflection is something we're thinking about too. And we feel like the students have reflection fatigue, and it's like at the end of every project, they have to do a little reflection and say that they learned and they grew, and they're just checking a box, and the teacher's not really giving feedback on that reflection. And it's not what we want it to be. It's not metacognitive. One of the things that we're trying to do is to make the reflective process more metacognitive from the beginning. So that a kid would start off on a learning experience and say, this is what I'm planning to do. These are the strategies I'm going to have. And then they're reflecting along the way. And what I'm hoping that this happens is that in that reflection, they're journaling their thought process and their use of AI, because instead of just making an AI acknowledgement be sort of like a footnote that they put on the bottom of their project, oh, by the way, I used AI, that they've got this, you know, a poetry analysis or whatever the thing is, the product is, and then they have this process journal where they have been reflecting the whole time, and they've been saying, when I first put it into Flint, I got this, it didn't really get me what I wanted, I needed some more ideas, I tried again, then my third draft was like that. And I think that is going to be a much more powerful reflection, and for the teacher to actually watch the learning happen, in addition to, you know, maybe they don't even grade the product itself, it's the process that's more important.
For sure. I will really quickly wrap this up. I think in the slide deck that I shared, there's like some additional reading, some additional materials for you all if you need them. I will say we have some upcoming sessions, and I think one that might be really interesting to this group, even though it also might be a pretty bad timing. Apologies for that. But this one on February 4th about making student thinking visible with AI. I know, Greg, earlier you mentioned the article from, was it the World Bank? But essentially talking about the students in Kenya who are using AI tutors for their learning. So the person who is going to help us run this, Justin Sorenzia from Episcopal Academy, he actually sent that very article to us earlier today, saying that he wanted to cover that in this session. So yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about how to really hone in on that visibility and yeah, showing more of that process of learning. Yeah, and then also this one about the student self-study might also be interesting. But yeah, on Thursday, Sohan's going to be running through the product updates from the most recent version as well. Yeah, I know all of these are like kind of in the middle of the night for anyone in Asia, unfortunately. But yeah, all recordings will be posted on our webinars page, and I will send them out once they're available as well. But yeah, thank you everyone. I can stick around and answer any questions if people still have questions, but yeah, thank you everyone for coming and really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone. A lot of familiar faces.
Thanks.
Good to see you all again. Yeah.
Take care, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.